So there were some good records we had today.
Sure.
You know what comes next, right?
Analysis?
No.
Oh.
God.
Interviews?
Yes, an interview. We're totally ruining the illusion that we do this all in one recording. Because Liz literally doesn't know how I set up every episode, apparently, even though we have in the past recorded them straight through.
I did mention I was a little high for today, right?
Yeah, you did.
The ad is strong with this one.
Anyways, so yeah, today we have our interview with an actual libertarian musician.
Yeah, it was super cool.
Yes, Mr. Zama Rripa with American Soul.
Yes.
I like it. It's good. It's a very upbeat album.
It's a soulful record. I mean, like you can feel the soul in it, like not necessarily soul style music.
Yeah.
You can definitely feel the heart in the record, and I love that about it.
It's got an oaken, earthy tone. That's how you describe all music like that. Just
Like rich mahogany.
Many leather-bound editions. Anyways, we won't beat around the bush too much, but this is our interview with Zama Rripa. All right, hello?
Nikki P.
You hear us?
Yeah, here we are.
Yay!
All right, good. My phone
Yay.
works better than her crappy Android phone,
Perfect.
apparently.
Well,
I heard
what are you
Lizzie's. I heard a Lizzie hello earlier.
Yeah, well,
But that's all I
she'd switched it to speaker
Right.
so you could hear her, but we wouldn't have been able to record you.
Right.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
Whereas
This
my
technology, I tell you.
Or
What are you gonna do?
my phone automatically detects that like I'm talking through the speaker, but that I can record you in the direct line. So
Okay, I gotcha.
yeah, it makes it easier. So
There we go.
all right, well, a good place to start here. How in the world do I pronounce your name?
Zama Rripa.
Is there a reason for 2 R's? Is that a real name, a pseudonym?
So that is a real name, and it's a real one name, but I broke it up into two.
Interesting.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So
My
you have-
mother's side is Spanish by way of Mexico.
Huh.
So Zama Rripa is a Spanish name.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, and it means Valley of the Horses. For what it's worth.
Very
I'm
interesting.
going to be honest, it sounds so...
I feel like there should be one of
Stereotypical.
those stars, like the more
Yes.
you know.
Hey, I like that. Hey, you have a good voice.
Gee, thanks.
Mine is Victory of the People.
I like that's even better.
That's
That's even better.
I think that's why St. Nicholas was St. Nicholas.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
Perfect. Oh, so true. Nick, you have a beautiful voice too, by the way. You guys are very talented.
I appreciate
I
it.
just have to say that right off the top.
Oh, stop. You're already on the show. Stop it.
Awesome. I'm in.
Anyways, so yeah, we were actually just listening to the record.
Yeah, I really dug it. It's groovy.
It's upbeat.
Cool. Thank you.
So Liz may actually be paying lip service because it didn't make her depressed, and that's generally what she likes out of music. But
That's good. Hey, that's good. There is a place for depression, relatively. Well, there's always a place for that. We have to go there, but yeah, you don't want to spend a lot of time there.
I've spent quite a bit of time there in my life, so I can
Yeah.
attest. You don't want to spend a lot of time there.
Yeah,
It happens
I
sometimes,
understand.
but-
I understand. Sometimes you can't help it,
Yeah, there you go.
So
but you gotta climb out.
Absolutely.
So, anyways, I'm not sure if you've actually listened to the show before, but what we do here is we try and learn about libertarians and try and connect on something other than the politics.
Yes.
So, what we do is we just talk about music. You know, and politics have a tendency to work in there with libertarians.
Absolutely. Oh yeah.
But, you know, that's not the focus of it. It's really about getting to know you and letting everybody else get to know you. So let's start out with the one question that we ask obligatorily, and that's how did you find your way to the Liberty Movement?
How did I find my way to the liberty movement? My earliest sensibilities inclined towards freedom, towards liberty, both individually and how I treated other people, friends at a young age. I was never one. We have friends that try to bully you and try to impose their will on you. And we constantly have, as kids, get that from parents in school and this and that. And not that I was reactionary to that, to all of those things, but I thought deeply about it and didn't like it. But of course you conform to get by and to please other people, especially as a young age. But I was very aware that there seemed to, at a young age, that there seemed to be always a push from every interaction we had towards conformity. And so at that point, as a young person, I don't think I saw it as rebelling against that, but certainly questioning. So there's always a sense to be free and to look out for liberty-themed things and people. One of the first influences on me, I read the book. I saw the film Watership Down. Now I know you guys are into science fiction and horror and pop culture. There's a great film after a book by Richard Adams.
That's the bunnies one, right?
With the bunnies, exactly. And it's funny, I saw the film and got the book, and I was 8 years old or whatever it was, and there's a lot of socio-economic, there's a lot of liberty themes in there. It wasn't explicitly liberty, but there was plenty of liberty themes. I actually wrote a letter to the author, Richard Adams, and wrote it to the publisher on the back of the book. And a couple months later in the mail, here comes a letter back from Richard Adams, which was pretty interesting. He was living in England, and it was interesting because that was one of the first times I said, "Hey, I read a story. It really moved me. And there's a real person that actually wrote this story, and he's out there, and he responded." So it was I don't know, it opened up a door of possibility or something. But back to your question. So as I got older, you go through high school and you go through the schooling, and you learn more about politics and about philosophies and this and that. And so at that age, I started calling myself a libertarian, but as it didn't fully grasp the concepts. As time went on, and then certainly after 9/11, when we really started seeing, we were already disgusted. America was already disgusted after the Clinton years with politics, and then 9/11 comes along. And I think just being an American and alive at the time, people obviously start asking a lot of questions with the changes that they see. And that's really what triggered me to dig deeper and really try to redefine what liberty meant. And of course, that pursuit, and I didn't know anybody. With that said, I didn't know anybody that, I knew a lot of people that called themselves libertarians, but I didn't meet know a lot of people that were aware of Mises or Rothbard or Lou
libertarians.
Yes, real doctrinaire libertarians who can articulate what it means to be libertarian and why. So shortly after 9/11, I was opened up to, I just kept searching, and my wife gave me a book, Milton Friedman, who I certainly was aware of before that. And I went online to look at the reviews of the book, and the Amazon suggestions were books by, suggestions were books by Ron Paul and Mises and Hayek. So I thought, oh, that's interesting. And certainly we'd heard Ron Paul before, but started looking at those books, ordered a few. One of the first, as I'm looking at these books now, was For New Liberty, Murray Rothbard. And that really kicked the door open.
It's a door opener for a lot of people.
Yes. And then then at that point, and you realize the need to really, logically and intellectually, to push through the thoughts and the concepts. And that's really what led me to look at libertarianism as adherence to the non-aggression principle or non-aggression axiom, however you want to phrase that.
He's so smart. He's using all the smart people words. Mm-hmm. Like he's studying philosophy or something.
Hey, I can pose every now and then.
There you go.
Well, so the big question I always ask anytime I do get a chance to get a libertarian musician on is, so how has that affected your involvement in the music scene, the music culture? I know for me, let's just say I don't talk politics and music because that would affect my bottom line as a performer. I generally work playing cover songs for money as a side gig. And so if I were to out myself as a libertarian, I have a feeling I'd lose a lot of work based on the other musicians I know.
Yes, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I've been both an actor in Los Angeles and a musician, and certainly it's prudent to keep your political beliefs to yourself, especially when you have to live with a bottom line.
Yeah.
For me, obviously it's more explicit on this album how I feel, and I just felt compelled to say those things. But yes, what was your original question?
Well,
I haven't had enough coffee this morning.
I mean, I feel that. One thing I did want to say is I appreciate both the sound and tenor that you take in the in your record, American Soul, was it?
Yes.
I didn't have it in front of me, so I was assuming that I remembered it.
I'll go ahead.
It seemed very accessible to, I would say, because I know I have a tendency to be considered a right-leaning, even though I technically am a left-leaning person.
Yeah.
But because I use the term libertarian, I'm a horrible Nazi.
Yes, exactly.
I thought that the tenor that you kept on the record definitely seemed like it would appeal more to people not of our persuasion. Like it has the potential to draw people in.
Thank you for that. And yes, and let me say that wasn't necessarily intentional. Going back to one of your points, yeah, you say libertarianism now or anything like that. And yes, people on both sides get triggered these days, as we know.
Well, I love getting racist all the time, and I'm married to a black woman.
Awful.
So
I know, on and on and on. I know it never ends. I know it never ends, that whole thing, and it seems to be getting worse on that. It seems like we need to start every interaction with people these days with an apology or something, because
we
I
just
think people
need to,
these days or just go. I think people wake up these days and say, "I'm going to go out and be offended today," and find the first person that I see, and a deep-seated need to be offended. But going back to what you said, yes, I was quiet about it for a long time, especially in Los Angeles. You certainly can't say you're right, but almost to say you're libertarian is worse than being considered right out there.
yeah.
But after California prides itself, Los Angeles prides itself on being the home of the tolerant, which is anything but, as we know. Just if you have to say you're tolerant, you're usually a very intolerant person. But by and large, but going back, this again, like you, I've been an artist my whole life, and I've always written, and I've always been cautious to not get, because you have to be sensitive to the people you're performing and working with. I was always cautious not to let on. And then I saw, and I forgot the quote, and we can Google it, but I saw a quote a while back, and it said, with any art, every artist should write or sculpt or play or whatever you do as if you were dead, as if it doesn't matter anymore. That's where your true expression comes from. And somehow that's sunk in, and those notions, of course, being artists, we play with those, and we go deep inside ourselves, and we try to figure out where the inspiration and the muse comes from.
And here I'm hearing that going, sounds like somebody who doesn't have to pay rent.
Oh, hey, that's true. I tell you what, on that note, I've been to graduate school, I've been to law school. I don't use any of them. I've paid my way through everything. So tried and true. With that said, I do have a wife that I've known since we were in high school together. And of course that helps because she's very grounded. I'm in the air, she's grounded. So together we make it work. It sounds like a kind of a dynamic that you and Lizzie have. You support each other and you make it do. But yeah, going back to that point, it is somewhat of a luxury, or it sounds like it's a luxury to say somebody who doesn't have to pay rent, but I got to a point where I felt so compelled with this now, and over time, you read about somebody like Rothbard, who said his regret was that he wasn't radical enough early on, and you hear that from a lot of people. And that started to sink in. And again, there was something deep down driving this. Just be honest. you have to be honest and damn the consequences.
Mhm.
With that, I fully believe you pare down and you chisel down to why we do this. And at the core, for me, it is about love and it is about service. And I think that is our calling as human beings to each other in full grace and mercy and as artists. And anything less than that is cheating and the people you're supposed to be serving or yourself. And so I think that philosophy is something that I was raised with, but didn't hitch on me. Just over time that is built, and over time I've just come to fully embody that, and that gives you a damn the torpedoes, damn the consequences outlook that finally culminated in where I am today. So there's a combination of factors that made it, and maybe that's why you say what you hear on the record is it's not doesn't I'm saying those things that should trigger, but they may not appear to many ears to be as polarizing.
Well,
It's honest.
It's a very uplifting album for sure to
Thank
listen
you.
to.
Yeah.
And I feel like that conviction that you're talking about comes through. And I think people are looking for authenticity so much these days that
Yes.
that is something that draws people in instead of sort of pushing them off, even if the viewpoint is something a little bit different from what they might hold personally.
Thank you for that. You know, we're all artists, and you go through periods where you want to emulate somebody or give a certain impression or this and that. And of course, we still live somewhat in the age of irony. And artists, right? This is ironic, me even saying this. No, we still live in the age of irony, and the culture has been so ironic for so long in film, music, everything. And it, as you get older, and I'm a parent like you guys are too, so that changes your perspective too, because the last thing you want to be called by your children is a hypocrite. So you, daddy, do what you say. So we preach grace and mercy to the kids, but it means nothing if they don't see us acting that out.
Yeah.
You know, so being a parent has helped too. It brings you to this place. For me, that's, it's different for everybody.
It made me respect Ayn Rand more.
Yeah,
On that.
right. And so all those things inform the art, and so maybe hopefully that's what people hear. It sounds like you heard that, and that's the intention. You know, I think it is authentic, and I know it's not cool to be sincere or earnest, but it's incredibly liberating. I think I got to a place as an artist where it's incredibly liberating to just do that and to be honest. And if nobody likes it or wants to hear it, that's fine. You can live with that.
Yeah.
You know, where when we're younger, we just want to please or meet the bottom line. And some people can do that and be, as we know, some people can do that and be wild. Some people can do that and be wild.